Hi, hello, welcome to A Week Past Sunday. I'm David Hooks, your Politics Scot, and don't believe a word I say. Coming up in part 2, we'll have a look at FMQ's roundup and we'll see what topics were discussed and what the actual facts were. But for part 1, we're going to be looking at News You Never Knew. These are the stories which either appear on the BBC News website for 5 minutes and then get hidden, or are never reported on at all. But mainly because they're quite positive for the SNP government. Now, I don't want to be known as simply some SNP shill or someone who's just going to be telling you positive news. There are always going to be negatives in here, but let's see what we've got and whether you know it or not. So the number of pupils from the poorest or most deprived areas of Scotland achieving at least one higher have seen an increase, up 1.5% on last year's figure, and this now stands at 42.7%. Although this still trails those in the most deprived areas, which was at 81%. Overall, the number of pupils leaving school with at least one higher was 55.7% in 2012-2013, but that figure now stands at 61.7%. These figures chime with the rest of the figures from Scottish education, which show a slow but steady increase in most of the measurable markers. Scotland's record on infant mortality was shown to be the lowest in the UK and heading towards being the lowest in the world. Also, the Scottish Government announced backing of £9 million in a new national manufacturing centre in Renfrew. The lightweight manufacturing centre, based in the former Doosan Babcock facility, is looking to provide new solutions for the aerospace, oil and gas, automotive and renewable sectors using lightweight materials such as carbon fibre and titanium. The Social Security Bill was published, marking the next stage in the landmark bill, which aims to alter the ethos of social security payments in Scotland to put dignity and respect at the heart of the process. Now, this one is not without its problems, and there are not enough powers being devolved to make the difference that the Scottish Government would like to make. They are also taking their time in putting the system together, which, yes, makes sure that everything runs smoothly when it is up and running, but it also means that people are left stuck with a system which has left some contemplating suicide. The changes the Scottish Government are looking to make have been welcomed by the Poverty Alliance, but the Scottish Unemployed Workers Network have said they intend to contact a majority of MSPs to call for immediate action to help those struggling as a result of Tory austerity and benefit cuts. On Monday, the Islands Bill was introduced, another step towards giving more autonomy and empowerment to Scotland's island communities. Measures in the bill include a requirement that public bodies assess the impact new laws or policies have on Scotland's islands, the creation of a new islands plan, protection for the Na Éileann Alar Scottish Parliament constituency and law, and yes, I should be able to pronounce that properly as a Scot, but I can't, so leave me alone. Greater flexibility around councillor numbers within island communities, and the extension of powers to island councils on marine licensing. At Westminster, the SNP will also campaign for the UK Government funding commitment for a deal for the islands of Orkney, Shetland and the Western Isles. To support Scotland's food and drink sectors, the Government announced plans to invest £5 million in a fund to promote island and regional produce. To support the building of new affordable housing in rural communities, the Scottish Government are investing £5 million in an Islands Housing Fund. And they also plan to use new powers to allow island communities to control and invest 100% of locally raised Crown estate revenues. On Tuesday, it was announced that £1.75 billion is being allocated to councils to boost affordable housing development, and the housing sector reached its highest level of activity since the early 1980s. And it was announced that 7,336 affordable homes were completed last year, up 13% on the previous year, and making good progress towards the government's target. Although it is worth keeping an eye on how many of those are affordable homes and how many are available for social rent, because those figures can be a little bit mixed on occasion. The government announced that Scotland hit its 2015 climate emissions target. Scotland's unemployment level is at its lowest level for 25 years and lower than the UK average. John Swinney announced new plans for the education sector to put more power into the hands of teachers, though it should be noted that not everyone is pleased about that, and the education bill has now been kicked another year into the long grass. While it's right to make sure the bill is sound and all sides are listened to, it does mean yet more delays on the government's top priority issue. Registration for the new baby box scheme opened. It was announced that the new Queensferry crossing will open on time and under budget, and you'll get a chance to walk across it, along with thousands of others if you fill in the ballot paper. There is a new £200 million Scottish growth scheme which businesses can access. Kevin Stewart announced a £10 million fund for affordable housing in the Highlands as part of the City Region deal, originally announced in March of last year. And one more thing that I want to talk to you about is this.
Delighted to be asked to take on this new role, and it's particularly significant for me because it's with my old regiment that I used to serve with many years ago. And I think there's two things that I can probably do. One, that I can help with encourage and support some people that are taking on leadership roles within the regiment. But the other thing I hope I can do is maybe explain to people outside just how integral the reserve forces are to the UK's fighting force. You know, by 2020, reserve soldiers are going to make up 30% of the British Army, and I don't think people realise that we couldn't function without them. So we've got a big job.
This is Ruth Davidson, MSP, leader of the Scottish Conservative Party, standing in a military uniform because she was given an honorary colonel role. This is a ceremonial role which is ordinarily only given to members of the royal family or retired senior military personnel. Quite why it has been given to someone who is supporting the union in the way that she is and promoting the union in the way that she is very unclear to some. There are rules which seem to suggest that this shouldn't happen, but as usual with the Conservatives, and as we covered with the video on Luke Graham last week, although the Conservatives very rarely break the rules, they swim as close as possible to breaking them without breaking them. It's the Tory way, it's what they do, keep an eye out for it. Now, there are probably more things to talk about, but I can tell I'm losing you, so go get a cup of tea or watch yourself a refreshing cat video, and then settle down for part 2, where I'll look at the issues raised in this week's verbal assault that we call FMQs, namely the cap farm payments and colleges. Spoiler alert, Ruth and Kez were at it as usual. See you in a few, bye bye.